TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donations. Shalom, good evening. This is TV7 Israel News, broadcast to you from Jerusalem. And in today's top stories, Israel commemorates the October 7th victims and pledges to win the war on all fronts. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu asserts Israel's resolve to conduct a retaliatory strike against Iran amid mounting U.S. pressure to diminish the scale of the looming attack. Iran warns it will respond with force against any Israeli strike on its territory. Israel commemorates the victims of the atrocities committed by the Islamist Hamas on October 7th of last year, while fighting on in the face of Iran's continuous aggression via its regional proxies.
On this day, at this place and many other places in our country, we commemorate our fallen, the hostages whom we are committed to their return, our heroes who've fallen in defense of our homeland. A year ago, we faced a terrible massacre. However, we rose up as a nation of lions. The people shall rise up as a great lion and lift up himself as a young lion.
Meanwhile, in the Gaza Strip, the IDF continues to strike at Hamas, degrading its remaining military and governing capabilities while eliminating dozens of terror operatives daily.
We are at a very high level of readiness for the coming days. We are on high alert and at a heightened state of vigilance. Operational efforts here, in the center of the Gaza Strip, in the north of the Strip, with very successful strike and fire efforts, with many targeting and hits on terrorists.
It is important to highlight that earlier today, Hamas launched 14 projectiles in two separate barrages from the Gazan area of Han Yunis toward the communities of central and southern Israel. At least one projectile struck the Israeli community of Kfar Chabad, wounding two women in their 30s from shrapnel. They were taken to a nearby hospital in light to moderate condition for further treatment. Turning to the southern Israeli town of Beersheba, where yesterday at approximately 2:25 p.m., an Arab member of a southern Israeli Bedouin tribe entered into the town's central bus station and opened fire toward dozens of bystanders before a group of IDF soldiers on leave responded, eliminating the terrorist at the scene. Regrettably, while the incident lasted for a mere couple of seconds before the terrorist was successfully eliminated, 29-year-old Ahmed al-Uqbi, who had a criminal record prior to committing yesterday's act of terror, murdered 19-year-old Border Police Sergeant Shira Suslik and wounded 10 others. According to Israeli medical authorities, the 10 wounded individuals were taken for treatment to the Soroka Medical Center, including a woman who was diagnosed in serious condition and 4 men in moderate condition. Turning to Jerusalem, where Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu addressed the nation on Saturday, during the course of which he reaffirmed Israel's commitment to its northern residents.
A month ago, I promised that we would change the balance of power in the north, and we have been doing so ever since. For the preceding 11 months, we focused on one front, eradicating the murderous military power of Hamas after the terrible massacre it carried out on us on the 7th of October, and the return of all our hostages, from whom we returned 154 back home. In those months, the residents of the north of the country, whom we evaluated to prevent a similar massacre on the border of Lebanon, those residents suffered incessant attacks of missiles, rockets, unmanned aerial vehicles, and mortal attacks. Although we responded to these attacks with force, it was not enough to restore security in the north, it was not enough to bring them home. But we committed to bring them back home to a safe and full life in the cities, Moshavim and Kibbutzim along the Lebanese border. About a month ago, towards the end of the destruction of the Hamas battalions in Gaza, we started fulfilling the promise I made to the residents of the north. We eliminated Nasrallah and the top of Hezbollah. We eliminated the Radwan force commanders who planned to invade the Galilee and carry out an even greater and more terrible massacre of our citizens than that of October 7th. We destroyed a large part of the missile and rocket array that Hezbollah had been building for years. And these days, our heroic soldiers are destroying the array of terror tunnels that Hezbollah secretly prepared close to our borders.
Premier Netanyahu went on to assert that Israel will not stand idly by while the abhorrent Islamic Republic of Iran blatantly launches ballistic missiles toward its territory.
Although we have not yet completed the removal of the threat, we have clearly changed the course of the war and the balance of the war, and we remain committed to do whatever it takes. You remember that Nasrallah used to mock us. He called us spider webs. He and the whole world discovered the iron veins of the state of Israel, a strong country with a strong, daring, and moral army. A country determined to defend itself against any threat. This also includes the threat from Iran, which is behind all the attacks on us, from Gaza, Lebanon, Yemen, Iraq, and Syria, and of course, from Iran itself. Iran has already twice launched hundreds of missiles into our territory and into our cities, in one of the largest ballistic missile attacks in history. No country in the world would accept such an attack on its cities and citizens, nor does the state of Israel. Israel has the duty and the right to defend itself and respond to these attacks, and we will do so.
It is worth noting that while the Ayatollah regime in Tehran proclaimed its heinous attack on Israel as a great achievement, Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, during a visit to the Nevatim Air Force Base, insisted that the Iranians haven't even scratched the operational capabilities of the Israeli Air Force.
The Air Force operations, both defensive and offensive, grants life to the citizens of Israel. The Iranians have not even scratched the surface of the Air Force's capabilities. Not a single squadron has been damaged. Not a single aircraft has been damaged. There is not a single runway that is out of order, and there is no disruption in our operations continuity. Whoever thinks that by attempting to harm Israel they will deter us from taking action should take a look at what is happening in Gaza and in Beirut.
Jerusalem's top defense official went on to stress that Israel will assert its qualitative dominance versus the Islamic Republic at a time and place of its choosing.
We are strong in both defense and offense, and this will be reflected in the manner of our choosing, at the time and place of our choosing. These matters, for us, from myself to all who is present here, isn't just a statement or direction, but rather a modus operandi. You know what to do, we know what to do, and at the end of this, we will ensure that we win this war, bring home the hostages, and ensure the return of Israel's northern communities to their homes, while Israel deters its enemies significantly. This past month clarifies this matter in the best possible way.
It is important to know that Defense Minister Yoav Gallant is scheduled to travel to Washington on Wednesday. Separately, U.S. Central Command Commander General Michael Kurilla visited Israel yesterday, during the course of which he held an extensive situational assessment with IDF Chief of General Staff Lieutenant General Herzi Halevi and additional commanders. The IDF spokesperson's unit released a statement in which it highlighted, quote, General Kurilla's visit focused on the current security issues with an emphasis on Iran and the Northern Front. And while no additional information was given, earlier on Saturday, U.S. President Joe Biden addressed the White House press corps, during the course of which he addressed Israel's anticipated strike on Iran.
The Israelis have not concluded what they're going to do in terms of a strike. That's under discussion. I think if I were in their shoes, I'd be thinking about other alternatives than striking oil fields. Look, the Israelis have every right to respond to the vicious attacks on them, not just from the Iranians, but from everyone from Hezbollah to Houthis. Anyway, but the fact is that they have to be very much more careful about dealing with civilian casualties.
So how should they respond? You expressed concerns about attacks on Iranian oil facilities. How should they respond?
That's between me and them.
It is important to know that the Biden administration is applying significant pressure on Israel to diminish its retaliatory strikes. Reportedly, as an incentive to limit Israel's strikes, the Biden administration offered Israel a significant diplomatic and military package that aims to diminish the risk to Iran's critical infrastructure, to include its oil and nuclear installations. Meanwhile, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi concluded a trip to both Lebanon and Syria, during the course of which he leveled a threat toward Israel, claiming that any attack against Iranian soil would be met by a vigorous Iranian response.
Our response to any strike from the Israeli entity is clear. For any action, there will be a reaction by Iran in a convenient and suitable way, and stronger. This is what we have proved previously.
The Ayatollah regime's top diplomat went on to claim that the Islamic Republic was seeking a ceasefire for both Lebanon and the Gaza Strip.
Regarding the ceasefire, we had good talks, and there are currently initiatives suggested by countries inside and outside the region. We are pursuing a ceasefire in Gaza and Lebanon.
It is important to highlight that Iran's calls for a ceasefire are merely a cynical charade, since it essentially calls, irrespective of reality on the ground, for Israel to declare defeat by granting the heavily battered Hezbollah in Lebanon, as well as Hamas in the Gaza Strip, a lifeline to include an immediate and comprehensive withdrawal of all Israeli forces from both fronts. Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News. I would like to encourage you, pray for the peace of Jerusalem and salvation of Israel. Separately, if you're blessed by our productions, which are exclusively donation-based, please consider supporting our programs with a donation. You can do so via our website at www.tv7israelnews.com. I'm Jonathan Hassan, wishing you a Shavua Mevorach, and God willing, we'll see you during our next update. Until then, Shalom from Jerusalem.